All right, we're jumping in. We're talking about winter gear today. I'm so glad you're here. My name's April Zajko. I am a nature based early childhood educator, and I teach lots of different courses and workshops about eliminating the barriers to getting children outside. And so this topic is really near and dear to my heart. Winter gear is really, to me, like a make or break kind of thing. If we don't figure out winter gear for children, then, the success of our program really depends on it. So this is a short session. We're just going to be meeting for an hour. So those of you who are here live, I definitely welcome you to use the chat box, and I will save time for questions at the end, and we'll wrap up in an hour. Um, the main topics that I want to go over is really thinking about the timeline for gear, talking about donations, talking about gear closets, and how to host a winter gear swap. So those kind of jam packing this into this 1 hour session, but I think these topics are really important. So thinking about the timeline, oh, I've already invited you to do that. If you're here live, drop something in the chat and I'll be checking on that. If you have questions or wondering specific about gear or wintertime, we'll definitely cover that. Those of you who are watching the recording, you could always drop questions into the Nature Inspired Facebook group, Nature Inspired Teacher Facebook group, and I will answer questions there. But when I think about how to set ourselves up for success for winter, I kind of think of it as starting in the month of August, which we're recording in October, so we're already a little bit later into our timeline here. But thinking, we want to really think about how we're sending out parent letters and frequent messages about setting our kids up for success for winter, and for really year-round outdoor play. Like, how do we prepare children, and how do we help families to support children? So this is my timeline. In August, I send out a welcome letter. I'm a preschool teacher, a nature-based preschool teacher in a public school. And right there in my very first communication with the new families, I mentioned the need for winter gear. So families don't have to send any other kinds of supplies in for preschool, but I want it to be on their radar that we have a list of specific things that we're going to need for their child to be successful in the outdoors. And by giving that list to families in August, they've got lots of time to plan and prepare. We are going to talk about equity and how do we support all families a little bit later in our session today. But when we let them know well in advance, I feel like it just gives them that opportunity. And then, in September, as the temperatures cool a bit, I'll send a note about, it's time to start sending in hats and sweatshirts. And, I'll send a reminder to them. I usually send a group email or something that reminds them that, oh, tomorrow looks like it's going to be a cool day and we're going to need sweatshirts. And right during those communications, I'll drop something else like, remember, eventually we're going to need those warm winter jackets and snow pants and waterproof snow boots, to remind them about what we need. Then in October, I send them home a checklist of specifically of what they're going to need for our program. And then again in November, here we really often need our winter gear before the holidays, but families might decide that, outdoor winter gear can make a great gift and that your child would benefit from, having a jacket that fits them or snow boots that fit a little bit more comfortably. So that could be a communication that I send in November. And then in December, in all programs, I don't necessarily do this, but in many programs that I've worked with, it's a norm that classroom teachers have an Amazon wish list. Instead of putting things on the Amazon wish list that are like supply things for the classroom or for the teacher, a lot of times what I'll do is I'll put some things on the Amazon wish list that would support the whole class. So waterproof mittens or certain pieces of gear, maybe balaclavas or things that we're missing that our classroom would benefit from. And so if a family wants to support our classroom as a whole, there's some options of things that we could use. So that kind of sort of builds up to really helping families families understand what we need. And then at the end of the season, so in the springtime, when I say end of the season, I'm thinking about end of the winter season, thank them for helping kids have the right gear and mention to them that if they have outgrown gear that doesn't fit their child anymore, particularly I'm thinking like if it's the youngest child of the family, but I send it out to the whole group, is like, we always are accepting outdoor winter gear. And these are the sizes that we need. And these are the types of things that we would benefit from. And so this system is really simple, but having those little drafts of things that I send either in the parent newsletter or, in an email that I send to the whole group, or for those of you who use some sort of app like Bright Wheels or something, you could just have these little pre-written messages that you sent out, short, sweet, but helps families to remember the importance of the gear. So shifting into thinking about donations, it's important that we learn how to feel comfortable in asking other people to get the support that they need to be outdoors. And so for donations, I feel people feel differently about it. I feel a lot more comfortable, honestly, to write grants than I do to go ask a business for donations, or to solicit donations, solicit money, financial donations from individuals. I much prefer to write grants. Now, grant writing is its own conversation, and I recorded a session on that, and it's on my YouTube channel. So if you're interested in grant writing, there is a link that I can get you all about writing grants. Grants really work more for nonprofit organizations or public schools rather than for-profit childcare centers. Or people who are running independent programs like after school programs or things like that. But grants are wonderful, because then you could secure even like a $2,000 grant could really help you outfit your whole classroom. But thinking about smaller scale, donation ideas that I think work really well, create a letter requesting winter gear from your currently enrolled families. So that could just be a letter that you draft and that you send out each year. I encourage you in that letter to be specific about the things that you need. Oftentimes, as you begin to build up the extra gear that you have for your individual classroom, it becomes really obvious the things that need to be replaced more frequently. Mittens go missing. It's a very common occurrence. So, asking for mittens and be specific in that what kind of mitten you want. You don't want cotton knit gloves, but you want warm, waterproof, or a little more hardy kinds of mittens. And what sizes do you need? So if you're running a program that's mixed age 0 to 5, your sizes are going to look a lot different than if you're running, just like me, a preschool classroom. For my preschool classroom, I generally ask for sizes 3 through 7X is about where we are. 6 to 7. So occasionally I'll have a child that wears a 10, that is, larger, or is more of a husky build. But write those letters, and you never know who has things for you or who knows someone who has things for you. Put out a request for winter gear to your graduates. So likely you have been in this, been offering your program for a while. So reach out to those people who graduated and see, would they, now they're in school, their school age, elementary school, maybe their family's ready to clean out and they would love to donate things to you. Also put out the request on your own personal Facebook wall. I've had a lot of success with that, in just saying, remember, I teach 3 to 5 year olds, and these are the sizes that I need, and particularly would appreciate like your ski gear, your high quality outdoor gear that really is going to stand up for a long time. And I think people, this is a good time of year when people, in October, when kids have had a growth spurt and sizes are, it's like, oh, they thought that was going to work again for this year and now it won't. So I feel like this time of year is a good time for donation, and then spring, when families are cleaning out their closets from the winter time. Here in Vermont, we have a program or a service called Front Porch Forum. It's on It's an email. So you might Google and see, do you have Front Porch Forum in your region? So the Front Porch Forum for St. Johnsbury is a really active group. I feel like I could put a specific donation request out there and I likely would get, a few items from it. Of course, when we're, picking things up from people that we don't know, of course, we want to, be safe and be cautious. But sometimes on Front Porch Forum, people will put in a request and say, I'm looking for snow boots in sizes, and list the sizes that you're looking for, and they could be dropped off at the such and such school, at the front lobby. And so maybe there would be some community members that would like to support you in that way. Another one that I don't have listed on the slide, but I think works really well, we have an across the country, there's these groups called the Buy Nothing group. So in my local one is called Buy Nothing Caledonia County. And in there, I could list, I'm looking for gender neutral snow pants in sizes 3 through 6. And I'd be happy to pick them up, somewhere within the Caledonia County area. The Buy Nothing groups, I have had a lot of success in getting donations of things and letting people know that it's an ongoing need that I have. So if they ever have, if maybe they don't have it now, but they have it later, that could be, I'd be happy to pick it up from them. Maybe write a letter to local organizations, so maybe local charitable organizations that you have, or maybe even big box stores, and you could ask for donations of new things. That would be another way. The lost and found, both at schools, public schools, and then also for those of us here in Vermont at the ski mountains often have lost and found. So at the end of the school year, I know in the spring, or definitely right at the end of the school year, after the school has asked families to come look through lost and found and pick up lost things, they end up just donating it. And so perhaps contacting the local school and asking them to save the smallest sizes for your program, or for whatever sizes you need for the kids that you serve. And also for the ski mountains, you might find that if they are willing to, if they're donating it to a thrift store anyway, they may be willing to donate to your childcare center or to your school. And this might be a way for you to get gear for the adults in your program as well, because when we're thinking about gearing up for winter, we know that adults need gear just as much as children do. Okay. Let me just make sure I'm not missing things in the chat. Okay, thank you. So some other low-cost ways to get gear, thrift stores. I feel like that can be hit or miss, but thrift stores, you can certainly find some good quality winter jackets and winter snow pants. I really like to look and see, is this going to last? If I'm getting this gear to be part of my gear closet in my classroom, I want it to last for multiple seasons. And so if things are tattered and torn already, I'm not really interested in getting them because I myself am not great at sewing. I'm looking for things that are going to last. Same thing with yard sales, going to yard sales and finding winter gear can be a great cost saving, very inexpensive way to build up your stash. End of season sales, same thing, in the springtime when local, larger stores are clearing out all of their winter gear. That could be a time, or online sales as well. I've had a lot of success online with Land's End. I like, it's maybe not quite as durable as some of the more expensive outdoor clothing company, but Land's End, I find, particularly their snow pants, have lasted really well for me. And so end of season sale is a great way. I know years ago, I used to get, my credit card had points to Sears, and Sears and Land's End were combined. And so the Land's End sales, I could use my Sears points, and I ended up buying all the sizes that I needed for my son. And for many years, we were geared up, and those same snow pants live on, a decade later, in my school's gear closet for the older elementary kids. The for those of us here in Vermont, Darn Tough Sock Sale is another great one where I don't have the date of it for this year. I believe it's in the month of November, but I don't have it written down. That can be a way you can go get, they consider them seconds, but Darn Tough socks are such great quality. And so getting some socks both for staff and for children is another really low cost way. Here we have, there's a Kamick boot sale. There's a Kamick in Littleton, New Hampshire, which is nearby to me. They have usually in the month of December, a boot sale, and you can go get Kamick boots for very inexpensive. And so look around within your local community or post it on your Facebook wall. Let me know if you ever see any deals or know sources of getting low cost things. Amazon can be another way. So you might find codes for Amazon to have special discounts. A friend of mine, she must get a lot of different notifications about Amazon codes, and she'll occasionally message them to me. And she's like, check out these, children's gloves, or check out these children's, neck warmers or things like that. And it's really, she gets some amazing deals. For myself, I'm not really that patient, but there is a tool that you can use called camelcamelcamel.com. It's a price watching tool. So if you're looking for something particular that's on sale on Amazon, this is a tool specific for Amazon. You can put it in there and you can say when the price drops below a certain amount, then they will notify you. And you can go back and you can watch the prices, because one of the things to know too about winter gear is that different times of year, the prices are different. And so when there's a high demand for winter gear, like right now, often the prices are the highest that they are throughout the year, versus in the springtime, the prices will drop. And so, depends on how much time you're wanting to spend into looking at price watching, but the Camel tool is quite a good one. Another idea is to have sponsorships. This is something you would want to start on early. So this is probably a little bit too late for this winter, but you might be able to collaborate with some local businesses or outdoor retailers, community organizations to secure donations or sponsorships for outdoor gear that can be distributed to participants in need. So the way that might look is you could say, we have 4 children within our program that need a full set of winter gear, and it costs approximately $100. I mean, I haven't done the research, but I'm just guessing at $100. And so if you would be willing to sponsor a child, your $100 would help, and you could list out the kinds of things that you would buy. I've never done this myself, but I have talked with other nature-based educators who do this idea of sponsorship. So it's an idea that you might try. And if you do it, let me know how it goes. I would be curious. But I could see that this would be a way for people to contribute who want to support the kinds of programming that you offer. So this kind of programming is meaningful for them. And so they you're not asking for thousands of dollars, but you're just looking for, a certain amount of sponsorship to support a child. I also think the idea of shared gear now, coming out of COVID, like during the COVID times, we were very explicitly told not to share any gear at all whatsoever. So I have, in my preschool program, I have 15 children. So each child was required to have their own gear, and we couldn't share anything. But, when children share gear, when appropriate. So for me, like, I'm not sharing hats because, the threat of children getting lice is still very real in the wintertime. But it can foster a sense of community and cooperation within the group. Obviously, I wouldn't take a child's individual things and share them with a different child because it belongs to that family or to that child. However, having a gear library or a gear stash within my classroom that it's shared. And so a great example is last year, someone donated a set of 6 different mittens, 6 different colored mittens. These were warm and lovely little mittens that this person donated. Um, but there became kids wanted all the kids, all 15 wanted to share the same, not all of them, but many of them wanted to share the same mittens. So it became the mittens were something that we shared. They were like a community of, mittens that our program shared, which was kind of neat. There was a sense of cooperation amongst the children. I think we also have a role in education and advocacy and really thinking about, you know, education in the sense of helping families to understand how to select gear, what kind of gear works best for children who are spending, particularly if they're spending extended periods of time outdoors. Sometimes we make an assumption because we live in a cold climate that families know how to select the right kind of gear, and that may not be the case. It can be really difficult to explain to a family, that the snow pants that they just bought um, don't work well because they aren't waterproof and their child keeps getting, soaked through wet and is cold and they're cold. And so it can feel like sensitive conversations, but I would rather a family have quality gear that's used than brand new gear from Walmart. So like the Walmart snow pants often, or pretty notoriously, the water will sink through, whereas used, heavier duty or better quality snow pants are better. So even having like at family open house or in early fall, if you have a parent night or a parent, meet the teacher day or something like that, laying out some of the gear that children will need and kind of having those conversations can help give some guidance to families and what you're kind of looking for. Um, and then also how to maintain their outer gear, their outdoor gear, so that it lasts for a while, so that it has that longevity and effectiveness. So a good example is a family, they had bought a new rain jacket, and we had gotten muddy, and which is a big part of our shoulder seasons here. We have muddy seasons in the spring and we have muddy seasons in the fall. And they were washing and drying the raincoat and it got ruined because, drying, laundering and drying in particular can really decrease the lifespan. So for something like raincoats or muddy buddy suits, it's really better to line dry them, like put them on a hanger or hang them up, and let the mud dry on it and then shake the mud off. It actually will keep the waterproofing of the gear better. Waterproofing is something that you can rewater. You can purchase it's actually a chemical. You can purchase this stuff for like fixing your tent, making your tent waterproof, and you can use it on snow pants, or you could use it on nylon, muddy buddy kinds of suits. That would be something that I wouldn't do with the children present because it's a toxic chemical, or it's, I don't know if I'm being dramatic. It doesn't say non-toxic on it, so it's not a product I would use in front of the children, but it could be something that you help maintain the gear with. And then I think we have a role to play in raising awareness about the importance of gear equity in our community. I think that, it kind of, many families don't even realize, that gear could be a limiting factor in getting children outside. And so thinking about how gear equity, how we could talk about that, I think is really important. And then, of course, advocating for policies and funding that support equitable access to outdoor gear for all, I think is really important. And so this is a conversation that I've been having with a couple of different groups about really thinking about how do we help children, in childcare centers and schools have the gear that they need. And it's not a super, it's not, there's not a single answer to it, but really thinking about finding other people who believe like you do that children deserve to be outside and we want them to be comfortable and we want them to have the right kind of gear. So advocating for that. Let me just pause there for a second. And if anybody wants to unmute or chime in, share their ideas about either donations or low cost gear, you could, I'm just going to pause and see if anybody wants to chime in. Okay.
Hi, it's me, Melissa. So
Hi.
I just wanted to also mention that there is a site called Honey that it doesn't matter if you just put it in, download that site onto your internet or your web browser. It doesn't matter where you're shopping, it will find a coupon for you.
Huh, okay.
Um, I also, well, because in Lindenville, I know that like Hope
Mhm.
and the Salvation Army in St. Johnsbury. But what I usually do is I do it like I buy a bin and like do the after holiday sale, and I just buy what they have. That way, even if you just got like a little plastic tote, the mittens don't take up very much storage.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah, I think you're right. Having some of those items and at the end of the season, Hope is a great organization that we have here in Lindenville. It's an acronym for Helping Other People Every Day. And it's a wonderful place that you can go to and you can let them know, I have a child who's a size 5, and this is the gear that they need, and they oftentimes will give it to you. There used to be, I haven't used this in a while because I haven't taught in Lindenville in a while, but they used to give vouchers, and this happened in summer camp too. Is that I was leading summer camp at Linden Town School, and there were children who were coming like in like jeans and heavy boots, and it's like humid and hot. And so I went to Hope and told them the children's sizes, and they were willing to give me a voucher, and I was able to go shop for them in the thrift store, and then bring those materials to the children directly, and the family didn't have to do it. So yeah, that's a really great reminder. Thanks, Melissa.
Well,
Oh, go
I
ahead.
also I also have a sign up for parents because um I make it very well known to the parents and the community that I don't mean to offend anybody, but I just know as a single mom raising a child, she's 14 now, that things are hard, things are difficult. So I put signs up um as the parents walk into the home that just a reminder, or Hope has vouchers
Mm,
in each child. I believe it's like $20.
mhm.
um and all they want to know is the child's name. um so I put that there. I also put down the resources for them, like oh uh, having a brain cramp. The place in St. Johnsbury, the NECA,
Oh yeah.
is it NECA?
Yep.
Because sometimes they have items um that you know but for parents who don't have the resources and stuff like that, I just put little notes and posters on that Hope in the address. I put the address and even like a little barcode so they can just scan it, so they're not like um feel like they're being watched
Mhm.
looking, reading the sign, that they can go and get a $20, I'm pretty sure it's $20 voucher. Um, it doesn't matter for the season for their child and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So putting the resources out there without actually telling them, but reminding them and saying, hey, listen. And um, another way I do it is at least 3 times a year, I will plan and say, hey, listen, we're having a field trip and we're going to go here, and we're going to get supplies, and we're going to do stuff, and we're going to be prepared to, like, my house is completely decorated with Halloween. Um, so this was back in July. I sent messages to parents saying, hey, listen, I know it's July, but Halloween's right around the corner. Um, you know, we were talking about costumes and stuff, and decorations, to let them know that, you know, couple months in advance of the holidays that are coming up, and this is what we're doing. And
Mm.
I take the kids there and let the parents know, oh, we're going to Hope because we're going to look to see if we can find scarecrow um, outfit so we can stuff the leaves. That's what we're planning on doing later on this afternoon.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think that's great, and it gives, gives families plenty of time, to prepare for that. Yeah, so I think parent letters can work really well. These are some examples of some of the things. I mentioned them some in that timeline at the beginning, but I like having in my family handbook a year-round outdoor play policy. It's just a paragraph that I add into the family handbook, and it basically explains why we play outdoors year-round. And this is something that they get right when they enroll, and so they can understand and appreciate, or at least understand why I value being outside. Not all families will understand why you're taking their kids outdoors in the wintertime. But I think it's important to have those conversations. Same thing with messy clothes. Also goes into the family handbook, and it's particularly at the change of season. So, like those mud seasons, it's really important to let families know, please send your kid in clothes that can get dirty. And this is why we don't want kids to come in fancy clothes and then not feel like they can play, especially in the outdoor classroom. We want them to be, really engaged and having fun and not worried about their clothes. Having a list for winter, a gear list for winter of the specific things that you're wanting, even having a year-round gear list. So the kinds of things that are needed in the fall, things that are needed in winter, things that are needed in the spring and in the summer. It just helps. It's almost like having like little checklist so that families know, oh, that's right. I'm starting to need, it's springtime and I'm starting to need sunscreen or whatever. And then in the wintertime, these are the kinds of things. Sending an article home about how to layer their child for outdoor play, I think is, especially if you're spending an extended period of time outside, having those layers so that we can adjust if you're feeling hot, if you're feeling, you're starting out with more layers and then adjusting the layers as the day warms up. And then same thing with tips for gearing up for winter at home, letting families know these are the kinds of things that we're doing in our program, and we're requesting, if you could do them at home as well, it makes them easier for at school. So giving them specifics about how we want the preschoolers to be able to put on their own snow pants and to zip them and put on their jacket and put, and I have a winter sequencing strip that I give them, or either like a printable one or a little mini version of a poster that we use in the program. And having that same sequencing strip, the visual support at home, put that where the child gets dressed, and then it can help them to be independent and do these things at home as well. So gear closets, I mentioned the term gear equity, but gear equity is this idea of equitable access and provision of appropriate outdoor gear and clothing for all participants, regardless of their socioeconomic background or circumstances. And so, years ago, back in 2010, I started a nature school that was part day, part year in private pay. And so it was basically at that time, it's changed now. I was there for 4 years, but for the first part of that program, um, it was all very wealthy families. And so I was like, oh, this is easy because all the kids come with all this like super great gear that they use for skiing and snowmobiling. It's really high quality and it's durable and it lasts. And then I went back into working in the public school because I decided I really want to work. I felt really called to go back to work with children in the public school. And I got back into the public school and I was like, oh, the quality of the gear has a huge impact. And I think we all know this, but it's like if you have gear that gets wet really easily or it's too thin, it really can impact the kids' comfort being outside. And for those of you who are in, longer day programs outside, it's also a safety thing. Like we want kids to not only feel, that they're comfortable and warm, but that they that it's safe for children to play out there. And so if we're really thinking about all children having access to this type of nature-based programs, then we have to be thinking, it has to be on our radar to think about gear. So gear equity aims to ensure that no participant is excluded from outdoor learning opportunities because of lack of suitable equipment. And so, having a supply closet or gear closet or shelf, whatever you want to call it, is just a norm. And that it's a norm in our program that we borrow the gear and we support one another in what we need. For programs who have larger childcare centers, who have multiple classrooms, who are serving lots of children, 100 plus children, that can be really overwhelming in how to gear up for a larger program. But I know that when we're thinking just within our individual classrooms, it's much more manageable. So thinking about gearing up 15 kids is obviously much more manageable than gearing up 100. But I really think like the more that we can do to erase that stigma of having to have, brand new gear, brand new clothes. Every year we have to, have a brand new backpack and we have to have a brand new whatever. I think that part, it's part of the sustainability model of we want to use our things until they wear out. We don't want to be a replaceable society. And so, really thinking about how can we make our gear last. And so another thought is to find people. So if you have a gear closet, keeping, maintaining the gear so that, if there's rips or it needs patches or the pant, inevitably the snow pant, bottom of the snow pants get ragged and kind of torn up. But if we can trim that back and hem it, or we could find someone to do that, then we can make our gear last for longer, and we can just make it part of the norm is that we have a gear closet. So when thinking about gear closets, it's great to establish whether it's a gear library or a lending program where participants can borrow outdoor gear. And you kind of need to decide for yourself. For some programs, it's easier just to have the gear that you keep there at your program. So you're gearing up, your 15 kids or however many children you have, and that gear stays there at the program. It's then you can ensure that when you go outside that the gear is there, that it's dry, that where it is, the child knows where it is, and that logistically makes it really much easier. So an example, one of my co-workers, the second grade, they had written a grant for having snow suits, rain suits, rain buddies or muddy buddies, kind of rain suits, rain boots and snow boots. And so depending on what the season is, children all have the same kind of the colors. Some of the colors are different because there's different sizes, I think. But everybody has it and it stays there at the program. It just makes it much easier, to manage as a classroom teacher. But part of me also worries or thinks about, they're only with me I run a part-time program. So I want these kids to have access to playing outside all of the time. So like my dream would be, yeah, we have enough of a gear closet or to keep in the classroom, but that we also can distribute gear to others. So we could send the gear home so that kids have this gear to play outside as well when they're at home. Now, that can feel really cumbersome, but your families and the families that need support more than others. And so thinking about, how you can have those conversations. So maybe you're not able to do that for all the children, but maybe you are able to support some of the children that need it. And then thinking within your gear closet, what's the gear that you want to have on hand? I tend to think about making sure that we have winter boots and that we have snow pants, and a few extra snow jackets. I feel like children, when they come, depends especially the beginning part of the season, beginning of the winter, and then towards the spring when families are like, "Oh, it's warm enough," and it's like, "No, we're still playing outside," and, "No, it's not quite warm enough." But I feel like for me, making sure that we have enough mittens, because those are what's often forgotten or lost, and that we have snow pants and boots. And I don't have currently in my classroom, I don't have enough for every child for that, but I have enough extras in the gear closet to support the ones who forgot it on those days. And I kind of do an inventory, as temperatures start to change, I keep check on who has what and who's missing things. And I want children to feel comfortable. Particularly, I find that when children are kind of husky or they have a larger build and a bigger belly, that sometimes it's really hard to have the right kind of gear that fits over, fits them in the waist, but isn't super long and they're tripping on it. So it's kind of like helping them find, whether it's bibs, snow bibs, or how to adjust their clothes so that they feel comfortable in it. So making sure that kids have what they need and that they feel comfortable in it so that it's warm enough, but that it's also the right size. So sometimes children who are trying to, or the family's trying to make do with what worked last year, the clothes might be really tight on them, and that's really uncomfortable. So kind of taking an inventory and seeing what else you need, and then going back to that donation idea. Like oftentimes what I do is I go back to my Facebook page with my own friends, and I'll say, I actually need a size 8 snow pants, or I need a size 10 husky, which usually preschoolers aren't that size. But this year I need one that's that size. And I have found oftentimes that friends of mine whose kids are older, I can get gear that way. And then I have other friends, retired friends, or people who really believe in the work that I do, who they don't have that gear in their closet, but they'll say, you know what, April, I would love to sponsor that child. And I'd love to, go buy them a pair and drop them off. Or I'd like to, support that kid, even though they're not from the community that I teach in. So gear swaps is another idea, and I think that gear swaps can work in several different ways. I actually didn't have, let's see, I think, yeah, I forgot to, kind of ran out of time to write the slide for that one. But for gear swaps, what I'm thinking is coming up with ways where families could, I was talking with a program this morning, a larger child care center who has multiple locations. And one of the directors was saying what she's done is they have overflowing gear. They have so much stash that it's too much for them to manage. So what they've done is just this week, they laid out a bunch of the extra stuff that they had. And then as families came to pick up, they just had families choose some extra gear for their child. And this was gear for them to take home. Other programs that I have talked with who have done gear swaps, they will collect gear for a week or two leading up to a swap. And then they collect, certain sizes. Some programs have done from, infant through adult. Other programs have limited just to, certain children's sizes. There's a church in my area. They don't do just winter gear, but every winter they do like a coat swap that's geared more for adults. But what the way sort of want to think about making it an efficient system. So you wouldn't want to, none of us have enough storage to like have huge amounts of gear, but maybe limiting it to where families or community members could drop off gear for a certain week. And then that weekend on a Saturday or something, have a swap where people can just drop in and take what they want. So kind of like a yard sale, but there's no money exchanged. Rather, it's just a swap. I could see a gear swap, being a really great community event for childcare network or other community organizations. And I think that gear swaps could be a really great way where it just becomes part of your norm of what you do each year. And so it could be a community event. Families could come and one program that I was talking to, they gather up, people donate things, and they they cherry pick it, or they pick out sort of the best things or the things that are missing from their own gear library in their classrooms. And so that stuff goes into the classrooms. And then the extra things, it's open up to the community, and they do it just for one day or like a half day on a Saturday. People come and pick the things that they want. And then the extras, after the swap is done, they'll find an organization, a thrift store like Hope, or some other thrift store, and donate the extra things to them so that it continues to go to other children in the community. So I feel like I talked really fast, but I do want to answer any questions that people have. And I I do think it's really important to build the culture of year-round outdoor play, and kind of talking to families about why we do what we do, and just making it a part of our programs, I think, is important. So for your own self, thinking about what's your action plan, what's your next best action, your NBA. I like that phrase. Where do you go from here? What's something that you could do that would help support your classroom, or support the children that you work with? And there's my contact information. My email is there. If anybody, particularly those people watching the recording, want to reach out to me. But I would also love to hear, what's working for other people, or how have you done gear swaps and made it work? And so definitely reach out, and I'm gonna open it up to questions. So one question did.
Hi.
Oh, hey, yes.
Hi. I have a question. We do like we call it a lending library at the beginning of the school year where families can come and pick out their gear for the year and they get to keep it for the year and bring it back. But we have so much extra and I want to give it to all the families, but some families don't want it or need it. What can I do about that?
Yeah. So I think what I would do is I would let them know, like, ahead of time, like, we're gonna, next Friday, we're gonna lay out all of the extra things that we have. And at pickup time, you can, select what you need for your children, or for, kind of like open it up for them to take the things that they need. And then if it really is extra and you don't need it, I would consider, sending it, or maybe contacting, if have a local childcare network, or other childcare, family childcare programs, or other centers in your area, and see if they want to come and take some of it. And if it really is like just too much, sending it on to a thrift store, I think, would be a great choice. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I mean, ideally, I want every family to have a set of gear, but of course, some families can afford it and like to get their own particular brands and stuff. So, yeah, I kind of like the idea of giving everybody like a set of clothing, but I guess that's not really realistic. But
Yeah. Well, and I think over time, so I know that, like, in my current classroom, m- I have enough stuff for us during the day. And then last year I ended up with extra things, and I didn't have enough extra to send home with every family, but many families didn't need it. And so I kind of did what I just described, is like laid it all out and was like, this, we just don't have room to store all of this. Please help us by taking it so you can use it at home. We want your kids to have this stuff at home too. And then stuff that wasn't picked up, I ended up giving to a child care center, and they used what they needed. And then, they were going to either keep stuff that they wanted on hand, or they were going to donate it to their families. So it just kind of spreads it around, I think. Yeah.
great, thanks. That helps.
Good. And if you're here live, I am going to put this. I know that both Lisa and Melissa, you both are in Vermont. So if you want to drop in the chat your BFIS number, I can put I can add it to the BFIS. Alexia, are you in Vermont as well, or are you somewhere else?
No, I'm in Maryland.
In Maryland. Oh, cool. I can send a certificate. Do you want one, or is not necessary?
Sure, why not?
Okay. Okay, cool. So, if you can put, Alexia, if you can put your email address in the chat, just so that I know that I've got it. And Melissa, if you can put your BFIS number, I can make sure you get your DPDs. And awesome. So I got that. Lisa, I got yours. And Melissa, I got yours. Oh, that's weird. Your numbers are really quite similar. That's odd. They're not the same. Awesome. Well, I hope that, you got some answers to questions today. I am always available to chat. I really like thinking about how can we help each other to make nature-based programs work. And I hope you have a great day. I'm going to hang on. I'm going to stop the recording, but hang on for a few minutes if anybody has other questions. But thanks for being here.